Qin Feiyue steadied his breath, his eyes like a calm lake as he addressed Venerable Hai. The imperial preceptor has no desire for the great educational heavenly devil scriptures. Venerable Hai, with his eyes half lidded, let out a low chuckle, the sound like the rustle of dead leaves in the wind. If the imperial preceptor is not inclined, then perhaps General Qin might hold some interest? Qin Feiyue's heart shuddered, knowing full well that no matter his words, the suspicion of this malevolent fiend would never lift. The weight of Venerable Hai's gaze was like a blade, ready to strike at any moment. An elder in the crowd, his white brows a testament to his years, spoke up with a voice both raspy and firm. I am but an old man with little time left. If I may, I wish to glimpse the great educational heavenly devil scriptures, rumored to turn one into both god and devil. Would Mistress and Venerable Hai permit such a request? Cult Mistress, her beauty like 1,000 blooming lotuses, glanced around with a playful gleam in her eyes. Who else wishes to lay eyes upon the great educational heavenly devil scriptures? A woman, her face pale and worn like the sunless earth, sat near Fu Yundi. She smiled, her voice soft as a whisper of wind. If Mistress will allow it, I too would like to witness this godly yet devilish scripture. Cult Mistress turned her gaze to Fu Yundi. And what of you, City Lord? Fu Yundi let out a hearty laugh, his voice deep like thunder rolling across the mountains. Do not misunderstand, Mistress. I hold no covetous thoughts over the great educational heavenly devil scriptures. I merely wish to see the mysterious technique that can shape one into both a god and a devil. I seek to compare it to our own arts, not to claim it for myself. I bear no ill will toward Mistress, and even feel a certain protectiveness. After all, the heavenly devil cult has sought you for so long. Surely you must grow weary of being hunted. Let me share some of your burdens. Qin blinked, his eyes sharp as he scanned the faces of the gathered warriors. Every one of them was interested in the great educational heavenly devil scriptures, but none dared to make a move against Cult Mistress. For even if one stole the scriptures, they would find themselves the next target of these deadly practitioners. Cult Mistress, ever composed, studied the crowd before she suddenly burst into melodic laughter. Her slender hands parted, and a jade box materialized in her grasp. Within this lies the great educational heavenly devil scriptures. The seals on it are the work of past devil cult masters. The atmosphere grew tense, thick with anticipation and fear. Qin heart raced, feeling the suffocating presence of a powerful aura locking onto him. Ling Yuxiu, seated beside him, let out a soft groan. The pressure wasn't directed at them, but rather at Cult Mistress, and by proximity it ensnared them as well. Cult Mistress, unfazed by the ominous aura, opened the jade box. A haunting melody seemed to emanate from the box, and like a serpent unfurling from its coil, a thread of light crept upward from within, slowly rising. It truly is the great educational heavenly devil scriptures. Venerable Hai, his ancient crutch tapping on the floor, spoke with unshakable resolve. Please, Mistress, keep it safe. Qin expression twisted in confusion as he leaned forward to peer into the box. An odd sensation stirred within him. That was no scripture. It was a ball of thread, the very one Granny C carried with her. Memories flooded him. The same thread coiled around a jade hairpin, resting in Granny C's basket. When he was a child, she'd often placed him inside that basket while she worked, and once in his youth, he had made a mess in it. The smell had clung to the great educational heavenly devil scriptures, an irony Qin couldn't help but laugh at. She's truly Granny C, Qin thought, a chuckle escaping his lips. I was wondering why Granny didn't stay at the inn. Turns out she disguised herself to enjoy a little fun. Cult Mistress, indifferent to the flurry of thoughts in Qin mind, allowed the thread to continue rising. It swelled, growing thicker, transforming into a mass of intertwining letters. These letters twisted and turned, circling in layers, a swirling storm of words. To the untrained eye, it appeared as a single thread, but to those with eyes sharp enough, it was clear this was the legacy of the heavenly devil cult, the great educational heavenly devil scriptures. Now, are we all certain? Cult Mistress's voice cut through the heavy silence, her words sweet as poison. The letters coiled back into the thread, vanishing into the jade box. She closed the box and, with a flick of her wrist, sealed it with the ancient talismans of the devil cult masters. Her voice was filled with both mischief and warning. However, if any wish to gaze upon it, they must consider carefully. Whoever dares to witness the Heavenly Devil Cult's scriptures will become enemies of the cult itself. I will not face the wrath of the Heavenly Devil Cult alone. All of you would be marked for death. So, who will dare to take the box? The room was silent, as heavy as the grave. The jade box so close, yet none moved to claim it. Qin Feiyue's brow furrowed, his expression wavering. While others feared the Heavenly Devil Cult, he knew that no matter its power, it would never rival the might of the Eternal Peace Empire. But should he claim the box, he would find himself the target of everyone present, and escaping would be an impossible feat. Others, too, were weighed down by similar thoughts. Even Fu Yundi, who had been bold in his words, remained hesitant. Cult Mistress, her gaze amused, watched the turmoil in their faces with a glint of satisfaction. She reveled in seeing these proud warriors caught in indecision. The silence stretched until Qin Mu, who had been silent until now, stretched and stood. "I'm full, Sister Yuxiu. Thank you for bringing me here to feast. City Lord, do I need to pay for my meal?" His words broke the heavy tension, and the mood in the room shifted. Laughter rippled through the gathered warriors, their expressions lightening as they looked toward the naive youth who had wandered into this den of vipers. Fu Yundi cleared his throat, his smile polite but strained. "Since you're here as a guest, there is no need for you to pay, little brother." Qin Mu flashed a bright, carefree grin. "Even if City Lord insists, I can't leave without paying. I don't have much on me. How about 100 dragon coins? Just wait, I'll earn the money by taking someone down." Fu Yundi frowned, but Qin Mu had already stepped away. His movements were calm, unhurried, as he walked toward the platform on the lake. "Young Master Tingyue, I heard that the abandoned can earn 100 dragon coins fighting in this arena. I'm one of them, so let me give it a try." His steps were steady, unwavering, as he approached the platform and the blood-soaked youth standing before him. Fu Tingyue, standing with a cruel gaze, was a mirror image of Qin Mu. Both were young, but while Fu Tingyue's eyes radiated ruthless disdain, Qin Mu's eyes held the calm of a man who had yet to be shaped by the world. The crowd watched, stunned into silence. These were warriors of great renown, but none had expected the naive youth to challenge the #1 fighter in Border Dragon City for the 100 dragon coins. Elder Bai Shan, with a shake of his head, muttered, "Youth with such courage seldom live to see adulthood. They perish before they can even understand their own folly." Fu Yundi's smile was tight, but there was an edge to it. Since the fate of the great educational Heavenly Devil Scriptures remains undecided, let us watch this spectacle unfold first. Once it's done, we'll decide who will claim the scriptures. What say you, Mistress? Cult Mistress, her voice as sweet as a summer breeze, replied, "I, as a fragile woman, have no opinions." Ling Yuxiu, hands clenched, was ready to intervene, but a glance from Qin Feiyu stilled her movements. She sank back into her seat. The platform on the lake became the stage for a battle that would determine not only the fate of a youth, but the course of many destinies. The air around them crackled with anticipation. Translator, Ninetails. Editor, Fish Creek. The butcher's madness seemed to be etched into his very soul, passed down through the pig-slaughtering knife skill. The blade of the butcher was no mere weapon. It was driven by the heart's fury, a blade born from the madness of its wielder. "You wield a knife?" Fu Tingyue chuckled loudly at the sight of the enormous knife, which resembled a chopping block more than a weapon. "What sort of blade is this?" Qin Mu's body shifted, and the blade's radiance exploded, cascading like a furious sea, waves upon waves crashing relentlessly upon Fu Tingyue. Fu Tingyue stood unmoving, his arms behind him, a sneer curling his lips. The clash of weapons rang through the air, a high-pitched metallic sound as silver flashes danced, darting like bolts of lightning to meet the pig's slaughtering knife. The silver glint was no ordinary blade, it was a tiny sword, merely 3 inches long. This tiny sword, however, moved with the swiftness of a storm, darting and flickering through the air with a trail of vital qi, binding it to young Master Tingyue. His control over the blade was nothing short of exceptional. As the sword flickered in and out of sight, impossible to predict. 7 more tiny swords appeared, weaving through the air like serpents, each one deflecting Qin Mu's relentless strikes, keeping the pig-slaughtering knife from landing a blow. These swords were spirit weapons, capable of shifting forms at will. The 3-inch sword, now smaller and quicker, allowed for greater control and precision. With vital chi poured into the sword, its might increased, and it became an even more elusive and dangerous weapon. Young Master Tingyue's swordplay was a masterpiece of the Eightfold Heavenly God technique, a strategy that made his swords appear and vanish unpredictably. This made his defense near impossible to breach. His reputation as the foremost swordmaster of Border Dragon City was no exaggeration. Countless battles, countless kills had owned his technique to perfection. Even gods and devils quailed before his fiendish aura, for few dared approach him. But Qin Mu's strikes were like the weight of 1,000 mountains, growing heavier with each blow. The more powerful the strikes became, the harder it was for the tiny swords to deflect them. Qin Mu's vital chi, denser and more potent, surged with every slash. Earlier, his strikes had not been fully fueled, but now his full power was unleashed, and the force of his blows began to overwhelm Fu Tingyue's defense. Young Master Tingyue's face reddened, sweat dripping from his brow. The pressure from Qin Mu's strikes was overwhelming, his sword technique struggling to keep up. The two men moved faster, their blades and swords clashing with ever-increasing speed. Their feet barely touched the ground as they circled each other in a deadly dance, their movements too swift for the eye to follow. Suddenly, Qin Mu closed the distance, moving with the ferocity of a charging tiger. Fu Tingyue's heart skipped a beat, and a shiver ran down his spine. Is he about to unleash a sure kill technique? He recognized the signs. When a martial artist closed in with such speed, it meant the opponent was about to unleash a fatal blow. Damn! Fu Yundi's face drained of color as he leapt into the air, rushing toward the platform, his heart heavy with dread. At that moment, every muscle in Qin Mu's body seemed to writhe and coil, a dragon and snake twisting together. His muscles bulged with power, granting him strength beyond measure. Every twitch of his body was in perfect harmony, his senses acute, able to track Fu Tingjue's every movement, every shift of vital chi. In that instant, his mind and body became one with the pig slaughtering knife. A cold glint flashed in Qin Mu's eyes. The killing move of the pig slaughtering knife skill was upon him. Raising the knife from forbidden. The ground beneath his feet seemed to tremble as Qin Mu raised the blade in an arc. The blade moved faster than lightning, slicing through the air with a force that could split mountains. It passed through the two tiny swords, and with a single upward slash, it aimed straight at Fu Tingjue's core, splitting the air in two. The power of the blade was so overwhelming that it cleaved through everything in its path, cutting straight to the heart of the battle. At the same moment, two tiny swords pierced the air, aiming for Qin Mu's eyes. He flicked his fingers, the sharp points of the swords grazing his flesh, but they were deflected with ease. A deafening roar exploded behind Qin Mu as the river suppression floor crumbled under the force of the clash. The building shattered, splitting in half, sending debris crashing into the lake, sending water splashing onto the shore, extinguishing lanterns, and sending a wave of shock through the gathered crowd. Fu Yundi's face turned ashen as he stood amidst the ruins. His body trembled as blood seeped from his mouth. He had rushed to protect his son, but the cult mistress had intervened, stopping him just as he was about to reach the platform. She had intercepted him, and the blow had left him severely wounded. In front of him, the cult mistress smirked, her calm demeanor betraying no fear. City Lord, it's a battle between the younger generation. You can't interfere, can you? She tilted her head as she gazed at him with a knowing smile. Luckily, I stopped you in time before you made a blunder. Fu Yundi clenched his teeth, suppressing the rage and sorrow threatening to overwhelm him. His voice was tight. You're right, my son's skills were lacking. He deserved to die. His eyes glinted with malice. I was just too hasty. On the platform, Qin Mu sheathed his knife, standing tall and proud. My blade, he said calmly, is the pig slaughtering knife. His muscles relaxed, the tension fading as he wiped the blood from his fingertips. Young Master Tingyue, you're not bad. You even injured 2 of my fingers. Before him, Fu Tingjue's body split, blood gushing forth as the wounds spread from his belly to his chest. The blood splattered, soaking the ground, and his body was torn asunder, leaving nothing but a bloody mess. Qin Mu walked towards a stunned middle-aged man who was frozen in place. With a swift motion, he seized the coin pouch from the man's tray. The man's expression shifted to one of panic as he reached out to grab Qin Mu's arm. "You've killed young Master Ting Yue?" he cried. With a single motion, Qin Mu swung his blade, severing the man's head from his body. As the headless corpse slumped to the floor, Qin Mu shook the pig slaughtering knife to rid it of blood before returning it to its sheath. Turning away from the scene, he walked back toward the ruins of the river suppression floor. Behind him, a plop sounded as the middle-aged man's body fell into the lake, soon to be consumed by the hungry fish below. Qin Mu stepped lightly on the water's surface, moving towards the collapsed platform, and raised his gaze to Fu Yundi, whose face was contorted with anger and disbelief. With a sincere smile, Qin Mu extended the coin pouch to Fu Yundi. "City Lord," he said, "here's 100 dragon coins. This is my payment." Fu Yundi's eyes narrowed, but he did not take the pouch. "I don't like owing favors," Qin Mu continued, his voice smooth. "Since I've eaten your meal, I must repay you, even if you don't accept it. Those of us from the Great Ruins may be poor, but we still have our integrity." With a radiant grin, Qin Mu released the coin pouch, and it fell to the ground, spilling dragon coins everywhere. Some even tumbled into the lake, disappearing from view. "Now that I've settled my debt, it's time for me to leave. City Lord, everyone, I must take my leave." He took a few steps back, then turned and walked away, his voice ringing out as he laughed heartily. "With heroes seated and drunk on wine, I slaughtered the sun to pay the bill. Delightful, delightful." Ling Yushu watched him, her bright eyes blinking. She wanted to call him back, but held herself in check. Though she was a noble guest in the city lord's manor, this act of violence made it unwise to be too closely associated with him. Cult Mistress stepped forward, blocking Fu Yundi's gaze as he locked eyes with Qin Mu. She smiled. "Since no one dares to take the great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures, I'll hold on to it. Farewell." And with a flicker, she vanished. "Trying to leave, are you?" Venerable He shouted, rushing after her, accompanied by the yellow-faced woman, the white-browed elder, and others. Fu Yundi hesitated for a moment before barking orders to a divine arts practitioner. "Take men and follow that youth, kill him to avenge Yuer, and gather men to bury my son." With his commands given, Fu Yundi turned and headed toward the direction Cult Mistress had gone. The great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures were far more valuable than his son's death. Ling Yushu stood quietly, preparing to slip away from the ruins of the river suppression floor when Qin Feiwei's imposing figure appeared behind her. "Your Highness, stop fooling around," he said softly, his eyes calm and measured. "The Imperial Preceptor's army is near." Ling Yushu sighed in disappointment. "I haven't had enough fun." With a gentle smile, Qin Feiwei spoke. "When Great Ruins becomes part of the Eternal Peace Empire, you can summon him to the palace and grant him the title of eunuch. He can accompany you whenever you wish."